again. Hey, so today I'm going to report a little bit of a problem I had last night. Now, yesterday was actually my maiden voyage for driving the Lamborghini this year. I kind of tucked it away. I didn't really spend a lot of time with the car throughout the winter. And so what I ended up doing was yesterday I decided to actually drive the car, dropped it off its blocks, put it on the ground. It had an oil change in the fall, so it was ready to go. Had the battery charged, and off I went. Well, I enjoyed the drive. The drive was awesome, as it always is in a Lamborghini. I wouldn't expect anything less. It was just spectacular. But the downside is, what actually ended up happening to me was, after I took the car out for a drive, I then returned, parked it on the driveway for a few minutes because I went to get in the house, grab some stuff I needed for my next trip, and I looked and there was a puddle underneath the car. So I figured, what the hell is that puddle? Is that oil or is that antifreeze? What is going on here? So again, before I continue, guys, let me explain what I found and what I actually ended up doing. But before I get into that, be sure to subscribe below, like, comment, and that'll help me. And definitely, trust me, you'll find a lot more good information in days to follow. But anyway, I digress. So this leak. So I called a buddy of mine, Ed. He's got a mechanic shop he runs locally here. He works on these cars. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to drive it down to his shop, see if we can get the car on the hoist, and see what the heck is going on under there. So what we ended up doing was we jacked the car up. We drove it to Ed's house. Ed jacked the car up for me. He looked underneath, and we found a lot of moisture. But that moisture was around the front of the engine. The front, as in closer to the firewall. So we found a lot of moisture in that area. So at first it was kind of hard to tell because I'd done an oil change in the past. I might have gotten a little sloppy with the oil filter removal, and of course there might have been a little bit of oil in the V of the engine. And when you drive, sometimes that makes its way back and snakes down, either drops through the front or the back of the engine. So I couldn't tell if it was oil or antifreeze or what. Kind of looked oily, but it was really wet, and I really didn't know what it was, antifreeze or oil or what. So what we did was we spent some time, and Ed and his partner there at the shop, they cleaned up under the engine, did a real good cleanup. It looked really good. Basically, we got it all dry in that area, again, by the firewall end of the motor. So anyway, the long and short of it is, after that we said, okay, Ed, send your car out, go drive it for a while. He said, let's go look at it and see, maybe we'll bring it back after it gets some chance to kind of wetten up again, and then we'll have a better chance at maybe deciding what those issues were, where the leak was coming from. So anyway, what I did was I took the car, I drove it. I actually drove it home, which was only about a 20-minute drive. By the time I got home, I parked the car in the garage, went and did a few other things. Just for curiosity, I looked underneath the car again as best as I could, and now what earlier was a spot like this, I saw after that little inspection, now I saw a puddle this size. So obviously something pretty substantial had failed there. So anyway, what I did was, at that point, okay, it became more obvious. I was in the garage. It became more obvious that I could probably grab a sample and see what that looked like. So I went there, I grabbed a white napkin, dabbed it, and lo and behold, it was a clear fluid that had a little bit of a bluish purplish tinge to it. So that there told me, okay, it's not oil. Thankfully, it's not oil. So we didn't have a catastrophic oil failure, because the first thing I thought was there's a lot of places for these things to leak oil, and one of them, the main one that I know is popular and I've heard is quite prevalent, is not the rear main seal. I mean, that can go too, and usually you do that with the clutch, but is the crank seal. The front crank seal is another one that can go, and that I was suspecting. Of course, it's not a hard fix, but it was one that I suspected could have been a culprit had it been oil. Now, fortunately, it was antifreeze, but it could still be a problem. Antifreeze there could be a thermostat issue, there could be a water pump issue, it could be a burst hose or some other fitting or something snapped off under there. So there was obviously an issue, but now at least I narrowed it down to antifreeze. Well, so we took that to the next stage. So I started poking around under there. And you know what? A lot of these issues, especially when you specify leaks like that at the front of the engine, were related to hose clips. Now, it sounds like, expansion rates and stuff like that created different issues and potentials for leaks. And a car like this does sit a long time. My car spends probably 7-8 months of the year in the garage, unfortunately, because where I live. Now, that doesn't stop me from driving this car. It doesn't, I mean, I'd love to live in Southern California, which I don't. However, I still enjoy the car, and I don't feel that where I live should dictate what I drive. That being said, it does sit a long time. And when a car sits a long time, you could have seals, oil seals that start to go. Things like this start to go as well, and they start rearing their ugly face once in a while. So anyway, the long and short of it was, the forums all pointed towards clips, or basically your hose clamps. So what I did was I jacked the car up. I did this at home now. And I cranked the car up in the air, and I crawled underneath, safely of course, because you never want to do that without protection and extra jack stands and jacks and everything in place. So what I ended up doing was I crawled underneath the car, I looked, and what I found was a bunch of hose clamps that were, they were snug, but they weren't tight. And so I went in there and I just went and tightened everything that I could get my hands on. I probably tightened about 10 different hose clamps under there. Some may be related, some maybe not so much. But I went in there and I tightened everything down really well. Often what you'll find is the clips are the expansion rates don't keep up, because a lot of the fittings are aluminum but the clips are steel, and so they expand at a different rate, and of course at some point all that expansion and contraction through heat cycles, and you wind up with leaks. And that's exactly what I found, because what ended up happening was I jacked the car back down after I tightened up about 10 clamps or so, or 8 or 10 clamps. I put the car back on the ground, went out for a drive, lo and behold, not a leak in sight. So I hope that helps everybody. This is the kind of information that really does help those people that stumble across these problems. I know there was probably 12 to 14,000 Lamborghini Gallardos produced in the run of the 10 years that they were produced. Again, a lot of them were the later models, but nonetheless, probably a good half of that were the early 04, 5, 6, 7s, and 8s that were all suspect or potentially could have faced this problem. So I hope this helps, guys. If you do have that problem, try the simple stuff first. My first response was, oh no, I've got rear mains, or I got crank seal issues, and then it's antifreeze, well then I got a water pump problem. You always think in the worst, right? It's the same thing with health. Everybody seems to assume the worst. Check the simple stuff first. I would say check the hose clamps. If you got that same leak in the same spot, that's your go-to. Check the clamps first. Try that. If that doesn't fix it and you can trace the source of the leak to a water pump or something, well, that's different. Try those hose clamps first.
No, I am.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, everybody, I hope that helps. The long and short of it is, sometimes you just got to look at the simple stuff. So again, if I can summarize, please subscribe below, like and comment, and come back and watch the next one. Now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going for a ride in the Lambo again. Let's go.